All right, guys, so about 10 days away from NFL free agency opening, the Baltimore Ravens are being linked to several free agents, as well as some trade possibilities. Eric DeCosta also talked about some possible wide receivers in this free agent market. Plus, we got our top takeaways and some big updates from the Combine presser. The NFL Combine starts today, and Eric DeCosta and John Harbaugh provided some details on where they could go in the draft, as well as some updates on the Justin Tucker kicker situation and a big update on Ronnie Stanley and more, man. So welcome into another episode of Ravens Reports. It's your guy Noah here with For the Flock, as always, bringing you guys our top 5 news reports and storylines coming out of our Baltimore Ravens today. To be honest, man, I'm just excited to be back with you guys because it's been about a week since we've got a chance to upload a video. I was just away in Raleigh for my drill weekend now that I'm in the reserves. Most of you guys know I got off active duty, now I'm in the reserves, and so yeah, just excited to be back on here with you guys and talk football. I love off-season this time of year when it's like combine, draft, free agency, all that stuff, man. I'm just excited for this upcoming year and how the Ravens are going to build this roster, man. So let's go ahead and dive into the content. At number 1, some big updates on what the Baltimore Ravens are going to do in the pass rush department. Now, there's reports that they're looking to improve there in free agency. There was a report that came out that they were interested in free agent Chase Young. Now, this doesn't surprise me because the Baltimore Ravens really liked him coming out of the draft, and there was also reports whenever he was available via trade from the Washington Commanders before the 49ers made that trade. Then he was a free agent, went to the Saints. So I wouldn't be surprised if that report is true. But there's also a ton of prospects in this year's draft. A lot of really good pass rushers going to be available in those first 2 or 3 rounds. Eric DeCosta and John Harbaugh both weighed in on some of the prospects available in this year's draft. There's also been many mock drafts with guys that are in the know, like Daniel Jeremiah, Bucky Brooks, Mel Kiper, who have the Ravens linked to a pass rusher. Here's what they had to say on building those trenches.
Best available players. So I think if we're picking at 27 and there's an edge rusher and he's the best guy, we're probably going to pick him, and it's going to hold through with every round. I think it's an important position. I think we were maybe second in the league in sacks last year, but having a continuous influx of young pass rush talent, guys that can set the edge and play the run, guys that play like Ravens, physical players who can get to the quarterback, I think that's a priority for us for sure.
It starts there. It starts on the offensive and defensive line. So we're going to be looking at both lines really hard. You look at every position. It gets a deep running back class from what I've been told too. So we'll be looking at that position too. But yeah, game-wrecking defensive tackles, kind of a big deal. Pass pressuring defensive ends, that's kind of a big deal too.
So a couple of guys that have been linked to the Ravens is Tennessee's James Pierce, Marshall's Mike Green, both of the Texas A&M pass rushers. But it's very clear the Baltimore Ravens want to add some more impactful pass rushers and game wreckers on that defensive line. At number 2, Eric DeCosta provided an update on Ronnie Stanley, and he also talked about some free agent wide receiver options and some receivers in the draft. First of all, let's talk about what he had to say about Ronnie Stanley. John Harbaugh talks about this as well. It's very clear that this is no smokescreen. They want to keep Ronnie Stanley. I don't think they want to have to go into the draft needing a left tackle and also trying to fill holes in the interior offensive line while also trying to go BPA. Just seems like too much to try to have that many holes. I definitely think they want to bring back Ronnie Stanley, who had a great season last year. And, Lamar Jackson looked pretty comfortable when Ronnie was protecting his blind side. Obviously, he had the best season of his career, historic type of numbers. He was actually, it just came out that he was PFF's top graded player in the NFL, the best quarterback. And by the way, Lamar and Eric DeCosta are actually going to have a meeting in Florida to talk about some of the top prospects, and he says Lamar's a stakeholder. So before we talk about Stanley, take a listen to what Eric DeCosta said about Lamar's input on the organization.
Lamar's got a great voice, and he's a student of the game. He watches players. He knows talent. Now, he does love the Miami guys and the Florida guys. But listen, Lamar he's a stakeholder. He's a partner. He's earned that right to have that type of input and opinion. And a lot of guys haven't earned that right, but Lamar has earned that right. It's important. It's necessary, and I welcome his input. And I'll get texts from him and There have been some years where I've gone down and visited with him, and probably due to do that again, to take a trip down to Florida and spend some time with him. But he's got a great command of the offense. He made great strides this year in every facet. You know, he's my MVP, and I think his impact on our team is impossible to measure.
So Lamar's input is very much valued. He said he's earned that right, and he thinks he's the best quarterback in the National Football League. But I think if Lamar has input, he's going to want Ronnie Stanley back to be protecting his blind side and not have to slide Roger Rosengarten over to the left side or draft a guy or a free agent addition. I think the Ravens want to keep that continuity going with Ronnie Stanley and get a deal done. Here's what Eric DeCosta had to say.
Ronnie and I did a deal the last time, so that's great. He and I have a good friendship. We've known each other for a long time. He's got a great agent in Kim Yale. You never want to say 100%, but I feel good that we'll have a good, healthy debate, a good process. We're going to meet with Kim in Indy this week, and I'm optimistic that we'll be able to get a deal done.
So he thinks that they're going to be able to get a deal done. There's also some talk on the streets, as some people like to say, that the Ravens are really close to getting that deal done, and they're trying to get that done before the free agency period opens up, before he hits free agency, and before, obviously, the draft and all that stuff. They want to have some certain pieces and transactions locked down, not have to worry about it, and I think Ronnie Stanley will be returning. Now, Eric DeCosta talked about some wide receivers. You guys know in our free agent target video, I'll make sure I'll link that one in the description, so that way you guys can check that one out after this video. But I had two wide receivers that the Ravens could target who would not break the bank, but would provide some really good value for the Baltimore Ravens. Because just a reminder, I love Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers. I think they're a great 1 and 2 combo right now. But we saw what happened in the Buffalo Bills game whenever Zay Flowers couldn't strap up. Rashad Bateman went down. Tylan Wallace and Nelson Aguilar was your top 2 targets. And guess what? Those guys are free agents. So really the only true guys you have on the roster right now as receivers is Rashad Bateman, Zay Flowers, and the second-year player Devontae Walker, who I'm excited for. But you just need more bodies in that room. You need more depth. If Zay or Bate goes down, you need to have another competent wide receiver to, partner up with those talented tight ends and Derrick Henry, so you don't just stall out in the pass game. And that way defenses can't just completely stack the box. You need to have some depth there. And I think a guy like Darius Slayton, who's been a monster over the middle of the field, who's still 27, 28 years old, who's had a lot of production with relatively bad quarterback play and a bad offense with the Giants. Anytime I've watched a Giants game, Darius Slayton's popping off and making plays. He's had, 2 recent seasons over 700 yards despite bad quarterback play, inconsistent quarterback play. Plus, Elijah Moore, who started his career with the Jets, was traded to the Browns, who's had multiple over 500-yard type of seasons. Just some younger, cheaper talent, under 30, that I think would provide some depth, be a solid wide receiver 3 to kind of boost, what Nelson Aguilar was as wide receiver 3 last year. No shade to Aguilar, but I think the Ravens can stand to improve with some more wide receiver depth. You can never have enough playmakers for your quarterback. But here's what Eric DeCosta had to say on the possibility of adding a wide receiver in the draft and or free agency.
Well, I think it's a good, a pretty good class draft-wise, free agency-wise as well. I think we do a really good job. I'm very happy to see the development that our young receivers have made the last couple of years. Greg Lewis does a great job coaching those guys up. Our players really did a good job this year. Feel like there's a good opportunity for us to find some good talent, either through free agency or the draft, in every round, in every price point. And I think the other point is that we've got some really good tight ends as well. And I think this year we really did see kind of our vision for the offense come together with playmakers across the board, whether it's running back, receiver, tight end, backup running back, backup receivers, backup tight ends. I think it was kind of what we've hoped for the last couple of years, and we had a chance to see that come to fruition.
All right, so at number 3, a little quick update on Justin Tucker. He came out with a statement refuting all of the allegations that were made against him with the sexual misconduct and all that stuff. But Eric DeCosta and John Harbaugh both said they're going to let this investigation with the NFL play out and then make a decision from there. He said they're going to leave it in their hands. They have a team investigating. Once we get the details, the facts, all that stuff, we'll make a decision. However, John Harbaugh said they would have been looking at kickers regardless this year because he said the reality is players can't go forever. Justin Tucker, as great of a career he's had, he can't go forever. Players just can't. And I said this before any of the allegations came out, whenever Justin Tucker, early to mid-season, was missing extra points and field goals that could have won the game. I mean, the Ravens started 0-2. Every game that the Ravens lost this last year, you look back at missed kicks where the Ravens could have put themselves in position to win the game or just won the game due to making the kicks. So I was very upset with Justin Tucker's performance, the consistent. I thought a guy off the street could have came in and made some more of the kicks than Justin Tucker was making whenever he was going through that awful spell in the middle of the season. If you guys remember, before all this stuff happened in the offseason with the allegations, during the season I was saying, hey, I'm a Justin Tucker fan. I'm rooting for him, but it's not personal. It's business. You're going to have to part ways with Justin Tucker if you want to have a chance. Can't be missing big field goals in the playoffs. And so I was a fan of moving on before all this stuff. I think the Ravens should just start a clean slate, go young at kicker, open up some salary cap space. I just think the Ravens should start a clean page. So the Ravens could very well be drafting a kicker in the first 5 or 6 rounds here in this NFL draft, and they said they were going to be looking at guys regardless. At number 4, check this out, man. A lot of drama going on with this situation right now. A lot of speculation, division among the fan base. Eric DeCosta was asked about Mark Andrews, if he would be on the roster next year, and he didn't give a specific answer of whether or not he would play for the Ravens. But he said that he's going to have a great season, kind of implying that he was going to be playing for the Ravens and have a great year this year. Some people are thinking this is like a goodbye message. I want you guys to take a listen and let me know what you think.
Yeah, I think Mark is a great player. We're blessed to have 3 really good tight ends under contract this year. They all contribute in different ways. Their chemistry, their camaraderie, their impact on the offense, their relationship with the other skill guys is great. Mark's going to go down as one of our great players. He'll be in the Ring of Honor someday. I love having Mark on the team. He's an awesome player. I know he's going to have an amazing season. We'll figure out all the roster machinations over the coming weeks, but I can tell you there's no bigger fan of Mark Andrews than me. And he's been a blessing to have on the team, his leadership, the way he approaches the game, his attention to detail. He's just one of those guys.
So many people after listening to this are just convinced that Mark Andrews is going to be traded either before or during the draft. Some people are saying a pick swap type of situation, like a good scenario would be the Baltimore Ravens. Some people are saying a 4th-round pick. Some people are saying, well, you give them a 4th-round pick, you get a 2nd or a 3rd. I just think people are undervaluing like how talented Mark Andrews is. Like Mark Andrews is a multiple-time All-Pro, multiple-time Pro Bowler. Every year that he's been healthy, he's in double-digit touchdowns, on pace for around 1,000 yards every year. Like, he's a dog. He started off the year a little slow this year because he had an awful car wreck during training camp that really rattled him, and he was still recovering from that shattered bone, in his leg in 2023. But he's fully recovered, and you saw him having some really strong games. Even in the Buffalo Bills games, he made several plays and then just also made several mistakes, including a dropped pass, for the 2-point conversion that would have tied the game. If he made that catch right there, or if he didn't fumble, I don't think any Ravens fans would be talking about trading or getting rid of Andrews. They say, man, you got to keep this guy. He's a star. He helped us get to the AFC Championship again, right? Because he would have made those plays. But if you do look at Mark Andrews' history in the playoffs, his drop rate in the playoffs is absurdly high compared to his regular season drop rate. So it does feel like maybe he tenses up, maybe he puts too much pressure on himself, maybe he just isn't himself in the playoffs. I don't know, but if you look at the numbers, they're there. They're true that Mark doesn't play his best ball in the postseason. Now, neither has Lamar, neither has a lot of the Ravens players. The defense will make splash plays and turnovers in the regular season, and then in the playoffs, it's like the turnovers are just completely absent. But as far as opening up some much-needed salary cap space, it's pointing towards Mark Andrews possibly being traded. I want to know what you guys think about that in the comment section below. And all I'm saying is I think people are undervaluing his trade value, like the caliber of player he is. And I know he's about to be 30, I think, but tight ends have, played well, and up until like 34, 35, you see Travis Kelce still going strong. So don't underestimate, how good Mark Andrews has been and his possible trade value. All I'm saying is, when it comes to next year with Mark and likely being free agents, if the Ravens don't move on from Mark this season, I have to see likely, here long term. Likely shows up in the big moments in the playoffs. He had the touchdown versus the Texans last year in the divisional, against the Chiefs week 1 this year. He had like over 100 yards and a touchdown. Should have been 2 touchdowns if he got the toe down. But he makes big plays in big moments. He's got the clutch gene. He caught the almost game-tying touchdown on the, 1-minute drive in the fourth quarter. Lamar threw a strike to Likely, and he caught it. Likely's a dog, and he's young and talented. I think he's about 25 years old right now, so I want to keep Likely around. I'm sorry to Mark, but if you can only pick one, I'm going with Likely for the future just because of age and his clutch gene. His chemistry with Lamar is also really strong. At number 5, the Baltimore Ravens are reported to have interest in Deebo Samuel. This is multiple reports of this now, so usually where there's smoke, there's fire. What I said about this is I don't know if the Ravens are going to be able to pay him the type of money that he wants and provide him the type of role that he wants, but I would love the fit as far as a physical receiver. The Ravens got physical guys all over their roster: Roquan Smith, Matabike, Henry, Ricard, Linderbaum. They have him on both sides of the football, but they don't have like a physical tone-setting guy at wide receiver. Do you remember like Steve Smith and like Anquan Bolden, some of those guys that were just bullies? I think it'd be nice to have a bully at the wide receiver position to help set the tone. And Deebo Samuel's a bully, man. He bounces off tackles, runs guys over. They line him at halfback. He's a good blocker. He's a strong physical receiver that just bullies guys. So I would love the fit. I'd love another playmaker for Lamar. I think trying to defend this offense last year was almost impossible. You saw the Ravens had, broken many statistical categories. They were the 3rd offense in NFL history in yards per play. They had the best scoring differential. They were dominant on offense last year, and that was without a Deebo Samuel. So can you imagine? Plus, I think the Ravens are going to improve their offensive line a little bit from where it was last year. So this offense could be even better in 2025, which is kind of crazy to say, but it's definitely possible. So smash the like button if you got any value out of today's content, man. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments section below. Glad to be back with you guys. I love you guys. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in, my For the Flock family, and we'll see you in the next video.
When he wasn't looking, he ran me over.